Owner of Ezekiel Funeral Home suspects arson after late-night fire. Big Smith News Watch. The owner of Ezekiel Funeral Home, Ezekiel Thomas, suspects arson after a late-night fire on Wednesday damaged a section of his property located on Best Road, Vredenhoop. Thomas reported to Big Smith News Watch that the fire significantly damaged a room used for Muslim burial rites and scorched the outer walls of the building. Fortunately, the fire did not spread to the generator room, or I would have lost everything, Thomas stated. He explained that he was alerted to the fire at around 11 p.m. Upon arrival, he discovered 2 burnt tires outside the premises, raising suspicions that the fire may have been deliberately set. The incident has since been reported to the police, who are reportedly questioning several individuals in connection with the matter. Investigations are ongoing. Fireman arrested for possession of narcotics in Madea. Osefo Bess, a 32-year-old male Guyanese of African descent and a fireman residing at 111 miles Madea, Potaro Region No. 8, was arrested on April 8, 2025, and charged by 22022 Jones of the Madea Police for the offense of possession of narcotics for the purpose of trafficking, contrary to Section 5(1)(I) of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act Chapter 1010. Bess was found in possession of 40 grams of cannabis. The defendant appeared at the Madea Magistrates Court on April 9, 2025, via Zoom before Senior Magistrate Clive Nurse, where the charge was read to him. He pleaded not guilty and was placed on $100,000 GYD cash bail. The case has been postponed until April 22, 2025. Vice President Jagdeo expresses frustration over GPL power outages. Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdeo has voiced his frustration with the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated (GPL) regarding the prolonged power outages experienced in various sections of the country earlier today. I was upset with them because they have power in their system, Jagdeo told reporters during a press conference. He explained that GPL informed him of a problem at the Kingston substation, specifically relating to the batteries. Jagdeo emphasized that the blackout was not due to an unavailability of power. Despite this assurance, the vice president acknowledged that, until we have a modern grid with redundancies, the country will continue to face periods of blackouts. Jagdeo reaffirmed the government's commitment to developing such a modern system to improve reliability and reduce outages in the future. Security officer remanded on attempted murder charge following chopping incident. Guyana Times. A 36-year-old security officer was remanded to prison on Wednesday after being charged with attempted murder in connection with a chopping incident that left a man hospitalized and on life support. Kennard Persaud, a resident of the Water Street squatting area, Tiger Bay, Stabroek, Georgetown, appeared before Magistrate Faith McGusty at the Georgetown Magistrates Courts, where the charge was read to him. He was not required to plead to the indictable charge. The charge alleges that on March 6, 2025, at Kroll Street, Georgetown, Persaud attempted to murder Delon Alexander Barton by chopping him multiple times about his body. Barton was picked up at the scene and taken to the hospital for medical treatment. According to the prosecution, there is video and audio evidence in which Persaud allegedly admits to the attack on the victim. Given the strength of the evidence and the victim's critical condition, currently being on life support, the prosecution strongly objected to the granting of bail. Magistrate McGusty upheld the prosecution's objections and remanded Persaud to prison. He is expected to return to court on May 7 for further proceedings. Contractor Newton Bob Fraser dies 2 days after accident on Heroes Highway. Inus, Guyana, Newton Bob Fraser, a 54-year-old contractor, has succumbed to his injuries 2 days after being involved in a serious accident along the Heroes Highway. On April 8, Fraser was driving an X-Trail when a truck allegedly crashed into him, causing his vehicle to spin out of control and collide with a lamppost. The accident occurred around 8:30 a.m. at a section of the highway where construction works were ongoing and cones had been placed on the road. As Fraser attempted to proceed with caution, a truck reportedly struck the rear of his vehicle, resulting in the devastating crash. Fraser, a father of 5, was taken to the Georgetown Public Hospital for medical treatment but sadly succumbed to his injuries this morning. He had suffered a broken pelvis, a damaged bladder, and extensive internal injuries as a result of the collision. His untimely death has left his family and the community in mourning. Fireman charged with drug trafficking following arrest on East Coast Demerara. Shamar Alder, a 21-year-old fireman of Lot 127 Section C, Golden Grove, East Coast Demerara, was arrested on April 4, 2025, and subsequently charged on April 7, 2025, with possession of narcotics for the purpose of trafficking. This charge is in contravention of Section 5(1)(I) of the Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substance Control Act Chapter 1010. Alder made his appearance at the Vigilance Magistrates Court before His Worship Mr. Sunil Scarce, where the charge was read to him. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. Bail was denied, and he was remanded to prison as the case progresses. The matter has been adjourned until April 29, 2025, and will be transferred to the Cove and John Magistrates Court for further proceedings. Police officer arrested after discovery of 34.6 kilograms of suspected cannabis on Lyndon-Soes Dyke Highway. Investigations are currently underway following the discovery of a large quantity of suspected cannabis during an intelligence-led operation conducted on Thursday morning, April 10, 2025, along the Lyndon-Soes Dyke Highway. Police ranks intercepted a motor vehicle near Horaruni. The vehicle, which was traveling west on the southern side of the highway, was driven by Sherman Ferguson, a 31-year-old member of the Guyana police force. Upon searching the vehicle, officers uncovered 3 large transparent plastic bags containing leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis. Ferguson was cautioned and subsequently placed under arrest. The narcotics were weighed in his presence, revealing a total weight of 34.6 kilograms. Ferguson remains in custody as investigations into the matter continue. Police seize over 211 kilograms of cocaine in Imbatero area operations. HGP Nightly News. Police in Regional Division No. 1 have successfully seized more than 211 kilograms of cocaine during a series of intelligence-led operations conducted on Tuesday, April 8, 2025, in the Imbatero area of the Barima River, Northwest District. The operation included a raid at the residence and fuel storage bond of Anthony Hosea Beria, also known as Anthony Hosea Yispin, and referred to as Negro. While the raid did not uncover any narcotics at the location, it resulted in the seizure of 11 cellular phones and 3 handheld radio sets. Reports suggest that the suspect fled the scene with a firearm before police arrived. Subsequent investigations led to the arrest of 4 individuals along Imbatero Creek, where several bags containing cocaine were recovered. Each of the suspects was cautioned and placed into custody. The total weight of the suspected cocaine seized amounted to 211.7 kilograms, approximately 465.7 pounds, with an estimated street value of GYD 317.55 million. Following further efforts by law enforcement, the primary suspect known as Negro was later apprehended and is currently in custody as investigations continue. Jagdeo assures no cover-up in Linden police shooting probe. Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdeo on Tuesday declared that there will be no cover-up in the investigation into this week's fatal police shootings in Linden and promised that necessary actions will be taken once the probe concludes. Jagdeo reminded reporters that President Dr. Irfan Ali had already engaged the families of the deceased, assuring them of a full and impartial investigation. Jagdeo, too, met with the families to offer further reassurance. I assured them again that the People's Progressive Party and the government will not cover up anything in relation to these cases, that we are committed to a full, impartial investigation. And whatever the outcome, those involved will face the consequences, Jagdeo said at a party press conference on Thursday. The unrest in Linden was sparked by the shooting death of 21-year-old Ronaldo Peters, who was killed by a police sergeant on Monday afternoon in 1 Mile, Linden. The incident led to widespread protests across the mining town on Tuesday. Tensions escalated when another man, Kian Fojane, was fatally shot by police during those demonstrations. Jagdeo noted that in both incidents, the officers involved are currently under close arrest. He emphasized again, once the investigations are done, then whatever the outcome is, action will be taken. According to police, Peters was shot and killed around 17:30 HRS on Monday. Law enforcement said they were acting on information that Peters was wanted for rape. Officers reportedly went to Shaba Bar in 1 Mile, Linden, to apprehend him. CCTV footage of the incident, however, paints a different picture. It shows Peters standing by the roadside among a group of seated men. A heavily tinted minibus arrives, and men wearing white t-shirts and black pants emerge. Peters is seen fleeing the scene as police give chase. Moments later, one of the officers is seen dragging him by the neck and taking him back to the minibus. Police headquarters stated that Peters was wanted for a rape that allegedly occurred sometime between December 1, 2024 and January 31, 2025. His aunt, Mary Benjamin, with whom he lived, confirmed that police had contacted her seeking his whereabouts for questioning. She admitted she did not turn him in, and he never surrendered to the police. Police also claimed that the officers were fully dressed in uniform during the operation, but CCTV footage appears to contradict that, showing otherwise. Meanwhile, Fojane was killed during the protest action that followed Peters' death. His shooting further inflamed public outrage and added urgency to demands for accountability and justice. Taxi driver remanded on multiple charges, including breach of protection order. Guyana Times, Giovanni De Weaver, a 36-year-old taxi driver from the Durban Backlands squatting area in Georgetown, has been remanded to prison after appearing before Acting Chief Magistrate Faith McGusty on several charges, including breaching a protection order, unlawful wounding, and using threatening language. De Weaver appeared at the Georgetown Magistrates Courts in connection with a violent altercation that occurred on April 2, 2025, in Durban Backlands. Meanwhile, the virtual complainant in the case, Peter Rogers, also a 36-year-old electrician from Durban Backlands, was granted $25,000 bail after he too appeared in court facing charges related to the same incident. Rogers pleaded not guilty to the charges. The case arises from an ongoing dispute between the two men. Rogers testified that De Weaver had repeatedly threatened him and his family, showing up at his home armed with a cutlass and making violent threats. According to Rogers, on April 2, De Weaver came up his stairs brandishing a cutlass while his children were present, and he had previously threatened to burn down Rogers' house and shoot him. Rogers recounted that after being threatened by De Weaver on April 2, he confronted him, leading to a scuffle between the two. He claimed that he picked up a cutlass to defend himself during the altercation. The prosecution objected to bail for De Weaver, citing the seriousness of the injuries sustained by Rogers and the risk of further violence, especially given De Weaver's history of violating a restraining order on multiple occasions. The magistrate noted that De Weaver had breached the 5-year restraining order within just 2 years and posed a continued threat to Rogers' safety. As a result, De Weaver was remanded to prison. Rogers, on the other hand, expressed fear for his family's well-being and indicated that he had installed a fence around the property where De Weaver also resides, complete with 2 gates for protection. Despite these precautions, he claimed De Weaver continued to disregard the restraining order, even breaking down Rogers' steps on one occasion. De Weaver denied all allegations, asserting that it was Rogers who had assaulted him and made threats against him, stating he has witnesses who would testify in his defense. However, the magistrate reminded De Weaver that the protection order had been granted after careful consideration of his previous actions. The case is set to continue, with the next hearing scheduled for April 16. Gold miner arrested for narcotics trafficking in Barbados. Roger Simon, also known as Goat Man, a 60-year-old male Guyanese of African descent and a gold miner residing at Lot 25 5th Avenue, Barbados, Essequibo River, was arrested on April 7, 2025, and subsequently charged on April 8, 2025, with the offenses of possession of narcotics for the purpose of trafficking and possession of narcotics. The charges were filed under Section 5(1) I and Section 4(1) of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act, Chapter 1010. The accused appeared at the Barbados Magistrates Court on Tuesday, April 8, 2025, before His Worship T. Mohamed, where the charges were read to him. Simon pleaded not guilty and was remanded to prison. The matter has been adjourned to May 12, 2025. Laborer arrested for cultivating prohibited plant in Plaisance. David Flew, a 22-year-old male Guyanese of mixed ancestry and a laborer residing at Lot 54 Graham Street, Plaisance, East Coast Demerara, ECD, was arrested on April 3, 2025, and charged on April 7, 2025, with the offense of cultivating a prohibited plant, contrary to Section 8(1) of the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Control Act, Chapter 1010. Flew appeared at the Sparendam Magistrate Court No. 2 before Her Worship Ms. Abigail Gibbs, where the charge was read to him. He pleaded not guilty and was remanded to prison until May 12, 2025. Vice President Jagdeo clarifies comments on Barbados following backlash. Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdeo has clarified comments he made last week regarding Barbados, asserting that he was not criticizing the country, but rather mocking U.S.-sanctioned Guyanese businessman Mohamed, who recently visited the island. Jagdeo made this clarification during a press conference today, responding to backlash stemming from a snippet of his remarks that circulated online, prompting criticism from several Barbadian social media users who perceived it as an insult to their nation. Last week, Jagdeo commented on Mohamed's social media posts featuring images of himself in Barbados, saying, "He is posting up like if Barbados is any big destination," and suggested that if Mohamed truly wanted to make a statement, he should have chosen Paris instead. During today's press briefing, the vice president explained that his comments were being misrepresented to shift attention from the actual issue, which he stated is the consequences faced by individuals associated with sanctioned persons. Barbados is a beautiful country, but I wasn't criticizing Barbados, Jagdeo clarified. He further noted, "The point I was making is, you have to go to Barbados and basically palava. Barbados is like home, it's like traveling to Letham. You don't need a visa. That's the point I was making." Jagdeo emphasized that his remarks were intended to mock the Mohamed family, not to diminish the value or beauty of Barbados. He also mentioned his long-standing relationships with the Barbadian people and leadership, including Prime Minister Mia Mottley, whom he described as a fantastic person. He concluded, "My friends in Barbados, they knew otherwise. They know I wouldn't do that. But these clowns have a way of diverting attention from the real issue." Trio arrested for multiple armed robberies in Georgetown. Carlton Bourne, a 30-year-old male Guyanese of African descent and a construction worker residing at Lot 15 Norton Street, Georgetown, was arrested alongside 27-year-old Devendra Muttaram, a driver of East Indian descent living at Lot 1 East Lane Penitence, and 20-year-old Derek Garraway, an unemployed male of African descent from Lot 15 Riverview, Ruimveldt, Georgetown. The trio was charged with armed robbery contrary to Section 222(c) of the Criminal Offences Act, Chapter 801. They are accused of robbing Paul Rambajan, a businessman from Good Hope, East Coast Demerara, and Prakash Kublal, a cashier from Mon Repos, East Coast Demerara, of a total of $150,000 GYD and two cellular phones valued at $250,000 and $60,000 GYD, which occurred in Good Hope, ECD. The accused appeared before His Worship Mr. Sunil Scarce at the Vigilance Magistrates Court No. 1 on Monday, April 7, 2025. Devendra and Derek pleaded not guilty and were remanded to prison until April 28, 2025, while Carlton pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 4 years imprisonment. Bourne, Garraway, and Muttaram also appeared before Mr. Sunil Scarce at the Vigilance Magistrates Court for another armed robbery involving the theft of a 9mm pistol and 10 matching live rounds from Daquan, Philadelphia, which occurred on February 23, 2025, at Melanie Damashana, East Coast Demerara. They were remanded to prison until April 28, 2025. Additionally, the trio faces charges in 2 other counts of armed robbery committed against Akian Hiles, a GNBS inspector, involving the theft of $100,000 GYD on March 26, 2025, and against Li Huxi, a Chinese national, involving $700,000 GYD and $40,000 GYD worth of cellular phone cards. Again, Muttaram and Garaway pleaded not guilty and were remanded until April 28, 2025, whereas Bourne, who pleaded guilty, was sentenced to an additional 4 years imprisonment. Pensioner injured and residents displaced after tree collapses on house in North Ruimveldt. Guyana Times. A 79-year-old pensioner was injured on Wednesday when a tree collapsed onto a 2-story house, destroying the upper floor and displacing several residents in North Ruimveldt, Georgetown. The injured pensioner, Stammen Rollins, was living in the upper flat of the concrete and wooden structure located at Lot 3793 Beaver Street. Reports indicate that he was at home when a massive plum tree from the nearby reserve crashed onto the building, causing him to fall from the top floor and injure his foot. Cheryl Joseph, the sister-in-law of the injured man and owner of the home, reported that the incident occurred shortly after 1:15 p.m. She stated that Rollins was trapped under the debris and had to be rescued by family members and police officers using a ladder. His foot was squeezed in. They had to get a ladder and go down inside for him, Joseph told Guyana Times. Cheryl Joseph, 64, who has lived at the residence since the age of 14, expressed frustration over the lack of action from local authorities regarding the overgrown trees in the area, despite repeated complaints. The house is situated next to a reserve and an abandoned structure on an overgrown plot of land, densely populated with trees and bushes. You know how long we called and they never came, they never showed up, she added. The impact from the falling tree caused significant damage to the home, collapsing the roof and destroying household items, including a chair set, stove, gas stove, and refrigerator. At the time of the incident, 8 people lived in the building, 3 upstairs and 5 downstairs, including 4 children. I feel saddened, heartbroken, all kinds of things. I'm stressed out. I don't know. It's really hard. I don't know, Joseph lamented. She recounted the moment of the incident, saying, I was sleeping and all of a sudden, it creaked like it was a bomb or something. So, when I jumped up, my granddaughter said, Granny, the plum tree fell down and fell on the house. And when I went outside, I saw the plum tree fall, and it was on the whole back of the house. When asked about their next steps, Joseph replied, I don't know, maybe we have to knock up something just to stay. As of 3:10 p.m., when members of the media visited the scene, no ambulance had arrived, despite residents reporting that they had contacted emergency services shortly after the incident occurred. President Ali rejects claims of protecting sanctioned Mohamed family. Guyana Times. President Dr. Irfan Ali has firmly rejected allegations that the People's Progressive Party Civic, PPP/C, administration provided protection to the now U.S.-sanctioned Mohamed family, labeling the accusations as inconsistent and politically motivated. While speaking on the sidelines of the Local Content Summit 2025, which opened on Tuesday at the Marriott Hotel, the head of state expressed his frustration with what he described as an ironic twist, from being accused of shielding the Mohammeds to now facing blame for their downfall. It's ironic that the very people who accused us of protecting the Mohammeds are now blaming us for their demise, President Ali stated in response to media inquiries. The president recounted an incident early in his term when a journalist inquired whether his personal acquaintance with the Mohammeds had influenced any special treatment from the government. At that time, he said, no evidence had been presented to warrant any action from the government. I assured him then, and I repeat now, that if any wrongdoing came to light, action would be taken, he remarked. According to Ali, the U.S. conducted its own investigation, resulting in sanctions against the Mohammeds for tax evasion and other alleged offenses. This is an international body. What does that have to do with the Guyanese government? He asked rhetorically, pointing out that the government is now being blamed for actions taken by the U.S. President Ali further noted that upon the announcement of sanctions, Guyanese authorities promptly requested additional information from their U.S. counterparts to ensure due process on the local front. Ali also refuted allegations from the Mohammeds claiming that senior officials, including Vice President Dr. Jagdeo and Attorney General Anil Nandlal, attempted to blackmail them. Blackmail? For what? Ali questioned, asserting that his administration would win the upcoming election not through political gimmicks, but by fulfilling their manifesto and maintaining the trust of the people. Defending the integrity of his government, he insisted that his administration has consistently upheld the rule of law, even involving the Regional Security System, RSS, for impartial investigations when necessary. Political motivation behind renewed allegations. Ali suggested that the renewed scrutiny on the Mohammeds is more about political advantage than actual justice, indicating that opposition-aligned figures may be exploiting the situation to distract or discredit the government ahead of elections. Let's be honest about it. This is a political campaign disguised as advocacy, he declared. He urged transparency from those organizing meetings and making public accusations while emphasizing that his administration's focus remains on serving the people and not engaging in political battles over unsubstantiated claims. We've worked hard, delivered on our manifesto, and stayed true to our mandate. That's how we intend to win, not through chaos or spin, he asserted. In 2024, the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, announced sanctions against members of one of Guyana's wealthiest families, Nazar Mohamed and his son Azruddin Mohamed, along with several of their companies and Guyanese government official May Thomas, citing their roles in alleged public corruption in Guyana. The sanctions were linked to the evasion of taxes on gold exports, with reports indicating that Mohamed's enterprise omitted over 10,000 kilograms of gold from import and export declarations, avoiding more than $50 million in duty taxes to the government of Guyana. As the government awaits further feedback from the U.S., Mohamed's enterprise has had its Cambio license suspended, and all government agencies have ceased conducting business with the Mohammeds and their related companies. Attorney General Nandlal addresses GRA's actions against Mohamed family's luxury vehicles. Guyana Times. While emphasizing that the Guyana Revenue Authority, GRA, must provide answers for its initial underestimation of taxes on the importation of luxury vehicles by the Mohamed family several years ago, Attorney General Anil Nandlal clarified that the tax body is nevertheless empowered to conduct a post-audit on the transactions in an effort to recover revenues owed to the state. He made these remarks during his program Issues in the News on Tuesday. The GRA has stated that it possesses irrefutable evidence of tax breaches by U.S.-sanctioned businessman Azruddin Mohamed and his relatives. Reports indicate that the total taxes owed by the Mohamed family amount to approximately $1.2 billion and are linked to multiple luxury vehicles allegedly imported under false pretenses or in violation of the remigrant scheme. Notable amounts cited in the tax breaches include $479.7 million for a 2020 Ferrari registered to Hannah Mohamed, $371.7 million for a 2020 Lamborghini Roadster owned by Azruddin Mohamed, and $320 million for a 2023 Rolls-Royce registered to Bibi Mohamed. Additional taxes include $61.4 million for a 2023 Range Rover registered to Leslie Khan and $24.6 million each for two Toyota Land Cruisers also registered to Azruddin Mohamed. According to Nandlal, GRA always had the power to review the assessment of duty and taxes. It is called a post-audit power. It is in the law, and any businessman who has had any relationship with the Guyana Revenue Authority would know of that power. Nandlal pointed out that it was Azruddin Mohamed who initially drew the GRA's attention to his family's underpayment of taxes through a post on social media. Following this, the GRA launched its investigation. The GRA would have to explain, or some officer who did that assessment will have to explain, why the assessment was done in the way it was done, but that doesn't prevent the GRA from reviewing the situation. Parliament by law has given them that power, he stated. Last Saturday, agents of the GRA, accompanied by officers of the Guyana Police Force, attempted to seize the luxury vehicles from the Mohamed family's residence in Houston, Greater Georgetown, after months of efforts to resolve the matter amicably. However, the operation was halted when officers were confronted by an angry mob that physically obstructed access to the premises. Subsequently, the GRA's enforcement actions were paused by a temporary restraining order issued by Justice Gino Persaud. The court extended this order until Thursday, April 10, 2025, giving the GRA time to respond to Azruddin Mohamed's application for judicial review and a full injunction. During the seizure attempt, Azruddin Mohamed accused Nanlal and Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdeo of threatening to send the GRA after the vehicles if he did not publicly denounce his political aspirations, allegations that Nanlal has since dismissed as a naked untruth. Nanlal clarified that since the imposition of U.S. sanctions on the Mohamed family, I have never spoken to Mr. Mohamed in person or on the telephone by himself. I met with the Mohameds a few times after the sanctions as Attorney General, in order to explain that, under the law, the government would have to take certain measures to protect the financial system of Guyana. He emphasized that he had never met the family without their attorneys present and stated that Azruddin Mohamed's political ambitions were never discussed. Why would I say that to this gentleman? It doesn't make sense. It shows you that this guy can fabricate and concoct an untruth in such a barefaced manner. Hopefully he will produce the evidence, Nanlal asserted. The GRA has maintained that its actions were lawful and based on concrete evidence, reiterating that such enforcement is routine when duty-free or remigrant concession agreements are violated. Despite claims of political persecution from the Mohamed family, the GRA has emphasized that no individual or company is above the law when it comes to tax obligations. This assertion was reinforced by a parallel drawn to a 2016 enforcement action in which GRA officers seized 2 luxury vehicles belonging to the Chinese logging company Baishanlin for unpaid import taxes, highlighting the agency's commitment to tax compliance. Media reports from that time indicated that the GRA's seizure followed persistent non-compliance by Baishanlin, despite clear notices and opportunities for resolution. 15-year-old robotic prodigy set to represent Guyana on global stage. At just 15 years old, Rylan Williams is living proof of what happens when curiosity meets opportunity. A proud member of the Lake Mainstay Learning Pod and student of Anna Regina Multilateral School, Rylan, along with 2 teammates, is preparing to represent Guyana at the prestigious International Greenwich Olympiad, IGO, competition in the United Kingdom from April 22nd to 28th, 2025. It's a remarkable achievement, both a personal triumph and a shining example of how community-based technology education can unlock young potential. Rylan's journey began 3 years ago when he first joined the Learning Pod program in his village. Supported by funding from the IDB Lab, the Learning Pod initiative has been transforming access to education in underserved communities across Guyana. It provides students like Rylan the opportunity to explore science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, in hands-on, engaging ways. According to pod leader Ms. Sharmala Singh, from the beginning, Rylan stood out as a natural innovator. Described by his mentors as a robotic genius, he has been designing, building, and programming robots since the age of 12. His talent and dedication have only grown with time. This week, Rylan's hard work captured the attention of not just his mentors, but his entire school. Invited by his teacher at Anna Regina Multilateral School, Rylan demonstrated one of his inventions to his classmates, a classroom assistant robot designed to clean the chalkboard and tidy up the space. The reaction was electric. Students were amazed to see a peer bring robotics to life in such a practical and exciting way, sparking new interest in STEM education throughout the class. Rylan continues to make us proud, said STM Guyana Operations Manager, Ms. Alicia Cullen. He has a natural talent for robotics, and we are confident he will go far in this field. His creativity and discipline inspire not only his peers but all of us who are privileged to support him. The team's upcoming participation in the IGO competition in London is more than a personal milestone, it's a proud moment for the Lake Mainstay learning community and for Guyana as a whole. As he prepares to fly the flag of his country, Rylan carries with him the hopes of his community and the promise of what happens when young minds are nurtured with care, resources, and belief. His journey is also a powerful testament to the impact of programs like the Learning Pod, powered by the support of the IDB Lab, which continue to open doors for young Guyanese in communities that have too often been overlooked. As Rylon gears up for London, he reminds us all that talent lives everywhere, and with the right support, it can go anywhere. We are proud to cheer for his team every step of the way.